Brazil used to sit atop the world of football, its superstars winning World Cups and Champions Leagues, but many of its heroes have since hit rock bottom, chucked in prison, fallen to addiction, bankrupt and corrupt, and even suffering personal tragedy. From an incredible life of wealth and fame that many could only dream of, to a new reality they thought they'd escaped forever. These footballing legends, names like Ronaldinho, Roberto Carlos and Adriano, had escaped hard times to make it to the top, but have been brought back down to earth with a bump. Ronaldinho is widely regarded as one of the greatest players of all time, becoming the only player ever to have won a World Cup, Copa America, Confederations Cup, Champions League, Copa Libertadores and a Ballon d'Or. Not just that, but he was only the second Barcelona player in history after Diego Maradona to be applauded off the pitch by Real Madrid fans during an El Clasico because he had played so well, and is widely credited with changing the trajectory of Barcelona to the world beaters we know today. However, after retiring he has faced multiple serious legal and financial problems, most notably in March 2020. He and his brother were arrested in Paraguay for trying to enter the country with fake passports. A weird thing to do, seeing as Brazilian nationals don't even need a passport to enter Paraguay. Of course, while in jail, Ronaldinho played in a futsal tournament and won it too, scoring 5 and assisting the other 6 goals in a runaway 11-2 victory in the final. After 5 months of being held in prison, he was released in August and ordered to pay a total of $200,000 in fines. That was likely no problem for the player who earned $35 million in wages during his career, and much more than that in endorsements, earning $19 million in 2006 alone for his sponsorship deals, although he did once lose a $750,000 deal with Coca-Cola after being spotted drinking Pepsi at a news conference. Despite all this wealth, it was reported in 2024 that the now 44-year-old only had $5 left in his bank account, having amassed significant debts from unpaid taxes, poor financial decisions, and mismanagement by his advisors, as well as a hefty fine for illegally building a pier at his lake house in the south of Brazil. In response to these debts and unpaid taxes, the Brazilian government has seized 57 of Ronaldinho's properties and confiscated his Brazilian and Spanish passports. He has also had to part ways with several supercars, as well as some expensive artworks. He also has a problem with alcohol, according to one of his friends, who told Brazilian newspaper Extra that his drinking has gotten worse since the death of his mother. Every day is a party, his friend said. Ronaldinho starts drinking vodka, whiskey and gin in the morning, and only stops drinking the next morning. It is not something of late, but we noticed that it had become more intense after his mother's death. Once considered the successor to Ronaldo, who we'll get to later, Adriano won a handful of trophies and had 4 prolific seasons in Italy before the death of his father sent his career into a downward spiral of depression, turning to alcohol to cope and admitting he was sometimes even drunk during training. His father had lived for years with a bullet lodged in his skull after he was shot, then left to live with poor health and eventually dying of a heart attack. Adriano returned to Brazil in 2011, away from what he calls bad influences in Italy. He left behind a career that was about to go stratospheric, saying he abandoned millions for happiness. In November 2014, a judge in Rio de Janeiro cleared Adriano of charges of drug trafficking, which had first been alleged 4 years earlier, due to a lack of sufficient evidence. He returned back to the friends and favela streets of his youth, where he was caught on video drunk during the middle of the day in Rio, in scenes that are a cause for concern. This became a major news story in Brazil, with reports also mentioning his marital troubles around the same time, with Adriano getting divorced from his wife after just 24 days of marriage. Sadly, Adriano has become a symbol for lost talent in his home country. Everyone remembers Roberto Carlos for his free kicks, but after retiring from a glittering career, the World Cup winner was sentenced to 3 months in prison after failing to pay $20,000 in child support. The former Real Madrid left-back owed the sum to his former partner and mother to his 2 children, with Carlos claiming he was in financial difficulty and didn't have the money, instead offering to pay in installments. While he was sentenced to 3 months behind bars, his lawyer managed to help him avoid actually going to prison. Carlos earned a lot during his career, especially towards the end during stints playing in Turkey and Russia, with Suleiman Kerimov, the owner of Russian club Anzi Makakala, buying him a Bugatti Veyron worth $2 million for his birthday when Carlos was the manager of the team. However, with 11 children from 7 different women and becoming a grandfather at the age of just 44, more alimony payments could see Carlos digging into the fortune he built while playing football, a legacy which has also been called into question after the Brazil legend was accused in 2017 of doping by the respected German media outlet ARD. A doctor who admitted to doping professional athletes claims to have treated Carlos throughout his career. Ronaldo, R9 or O Fenomeno, or now sadly commonly known as the Fat Ronaldo due to the cyborg washboard abs of the Portuguese player who shares the same name. R9 was once the best footballer on the planet, breaking world record transfer fees and scoring winning goals in World Cup finals. A person who is spoken of highly by his former teammates and tries his best to keep his personal life private, as well as seemingly managing his wealth well enough to invest in various football teams such as La Liga's Real Valladolid and his boyhood club Cruzeiro. Towards the end of his career, having struggled with weight gain and injuries, Ronaldo was finally diagnosed with hypothyroidism, which slows down your metabolism and causes weight gain, which now, because he's no longer training every day, means he has ballooned in size. But Ronaldo's one weakness is women. He's been married 5 times and caught up in a number of scandals. In April 2008, he went home from a Rio de Janeiro nightclub with 3 women of the night, who turned out to be trans. When Ronaldo asked them to leave, even offered to pay them to leave, one of them attempted to blackmail him. When the story became public, his engagement to his fiancée was immediately called off, although he did eventually marry Maria Beatriz Antony later that year, and the couple soon had 2 daughters to go with Ronaldo's first son, who weirdly was born on the same day exactly 10 years earlier to another woman. In December 2010, Ronaldo took a paternity test which revealed he was also the father of a boy born in 2005 to a waitress that Ronaldo first met in Tokyo in 2002. Yep, the time and place of that year's World Cup, and of that haircut. Now, with 4 children from 3 different women, Ronaldo got the snip, stating 4 children was more than enough. Sadly, he and Maria divorced in 2012, and by 2025, he is onto his 5th wife, a model and businesswoman named Chelina. Ronaldo was great at finding the back of the net, but finding everlasting love is proving a much harder task for him. Sadly, this story of Brazil's football legends falling from grace doesn't end here. Edmundo, nicknamed the Animal, was a star of the 1990s who was involved in several incidents off the pitch throughout his career, and he was also notorious for his partying. In 1999, an animal rights group tried to prosecute him for hiring an entire circus to perform in his back garden for his son's first birthday, where Edmundo was accused of encouraging a chimpanzee to get drunk on beer and whiskey, with images being published in 2004 in a UK magazine. Also in 1999, he escaped a 4-year prison sentence for driving drunk and crashing his car during the 1995 Rio Carnival, which resulted in the deaths of 3 people. You'll also remember Cafu, the mercurial right-back who captained Brazil to their 2002 World Cup win, having also won the 1994 tournament and being the only player in history to appear in 3 World Cup finals. Cafu retired in 2008 to enjoy his retirement and spend time with his family, but tragedy struck in September 2019 when his son Danilo suffered a heart attack whilst playing football in the garden of their family home. The boy complained about feeling unwell and was rushed to hospital, where he tragically died. 90s legend Romario could claim to be the most successful retired Brazilian footballer, having successfully transitioned to a political career, being elected senator in the Brazilian Congress, where he railed against corruption and has also bravely stood up to FIFA, denouncing the 2014 World Cup in Brazil as money laundering and also immersed in corruption, before claiming that the 2018 World Cup was stolen from England and sold to Russia. Not content with a quiet life, Romario has had a hectic private life, 3 marriages, 7 children, and apparently he even introduced some of his children to a woman he was having an affair with while still married to his wife. Romario's lifestyle, his constant comings and goings, caused problems with his wife. Barca icon Hristo Stoichkov added, "Romario was only interested in 2 things, football and women." There we have it, from complicated, sprawling relationships and prison time to personal tragedy. The biggest footballers of Brazil's golden era have been through a lot. Were their trials and tribulations caused by their success? Were they victims of circumstance? Was it inevitable that this sort of thing happens to young, very famous people who find vast wealth quickly and find it difficult to know who to trust, all while living thousands of miles from home, away from everyone they know? What can't be disputed is what they did on the pitch inspired generations, in Brazil and around the world, and their sometimes troubled lives off the pitch are simply part of their myth.